So let's get started on this 2-point perspective city that I was talking about. You're going to want to start with a nice size, clean white paper, please, a pencil, a straight edge, and probably an eraser, definitely an eraser. I'm working on a whiteboard so that I can erase. I think that this makes a little better sense for me today. We're going to be working on this city for some time, and I'm going to be building it in chunks so that it's not too much at once for you. What I'd like you to do first is at the bottom of the paper, please label 2-point perspective city. And next, what I'd like you to do is, using a straight edge, go ahead and put in the horizon line, which is the line, of course, that separates the earth from the sky. We're going to put that a little higher up on the page, at least in the top, maybe quarter of the page. Yeah, okay. Try not to let your ruler slide around on you. Oh my gosh. Fail. All right, that'll work. On this horizon line, you are going to locate 2 vanishing points because it is a 2-point perspective picture. So we're going to put one way over on one side on the horizon line and one way over on the other. You do need 2 points, and you need to use both points when you're drawing. Don't forget that. Okay, first thing we're going to do, we are going to begin building our city by creating our first building in the town, and it's going to be in the center of town. So about the center of your paper, and don't get concerned about is it perfect, it's fine, about the center, give it a good guesstimate. We're going to put in a vertical line. Try your best to make sure the line is in fact vertical. Straight does not mean vertical. Okay, straight, this is straight, this is straight, this is straight. It's always straight because it's a ruler, but it might have an angle to it. A vertical line should stand straight up and down. Okay, so our first line segment for our building, it's going to be up high, not touching the top of the paper, a little bit lower than the top of the paper, but definitely above the horizon line. And then it's going to extend vertically down, and I'm actually going to take it just a pinch shorter. Okay. It's going to extend all the way down, a little bit lower than halfway down your page. Don't bring it too far down because we are going to have room for sidewalks and roadways. And if you bring it too far down, you're not leaving yourself room for that. So here's my line segment, top and bottom. Now, if you remember with the cubes, the way we made a cube is we took the top and the bottom of the line segment and drew them to both vanishing points. What I'd like you to do today with this building is take the bottom of the line segment, line it up with the left vanishing point, make sure it's lined up perfectly, and I would like you to draw all the way back to touch the point. Make sure you are hitting the point. Take the bottom and do the same thing with the right vanishing point. Okay, so these lines, you are not going to erase these lines. That's why I want you to take them all the way back. These lines are keepers for the whole project. It's possible you might erase just a small section of those lines, but essentially you're going to want these lines to stay. All right. Looks like a big arrow. This is going to be our corner of town. This is going to be the building that sits in the corner of town. We do have to finish building the building or constructing the building so that you can see it a little bit better. We'll take the top of the line segment and line it up with the left vanishing point. Line it up perfectly, but this time, promise me it's lined up, okay? If you can line it up and promise me, then you have my permission to draw it, just a little ways and then stop. All right. I know that if I continued, it would definitely hit the point. But I also know that if I continued, I'm going to have to erase a lot of that, which I don't really want to spend time erasing, and I don't want to waste an eraser. Now take the top of the line segment, line it up with the right vanishing point, and draw towards it a little ways. Okay. But I didn't connect it all the way there. If I kept going, it would hit the point. Definitely. But I stopped short because this is going to be one tall box that looks like and will look even more like a building as we go along. I'm putting a vertical line coming down the side, which is parallel with the first vertical line. I'm going to put one on the left and I'm going to put one on the right. All right, now, you would normally not be able to see through a building. So we are going to erase the horizon line that was stuck inside the building. And now we have a building that nobody wants to work in because you can't get in, can't get out, and you have no windows. Let me touch that up for you. All right, but that is a building, okay? It's a shell of a building. I'm going to show you how to make a couple more buildings today, and then we're going to come back and we're going to put doors on the buildings and windows on the buildings. We'll put a sidewalk, we'll put roadways, we'll do all kinds of fun stuff. All right, so for our next building, let's make this a busy city. Busy meaning that there's a lot of structures, there's a lot of businesses, so many that some of the buildings are actually going to be touching each other. Rewind back to the first building for just a second. Every building, like every cube before, starts with a single vertical line. This is the center line of the building. Every building will have a center line. Okay, lock that in. If a building, a new building, okay, is going to be touching another building that's already existing, then it's going to share a line. So let me just say, I'm going to make a new building on the right-hand side, and I'm going to start with a center line for my new building, but because it's going to be touching the original building, it's going to share its vertical center line with the edge of the first building. So I definitely don't want to make my second building the exact same height as my first because it wouldn't be a very interesting city. You want to have some staggered buildings. So what I'm going to ask you to do for this, and follow along at first, and the more we do and the more you get, the more freedom you can have. But underneath the horizon line, lower than the horizon line, on this edge, on the right side, this vertical line, I'd like you to make a little mark, a little dot. That's going to be the top of my new line segment for my new building. The bottom is where it ends. So now this little dot and underneath it become the new center line for my new building. This was the center line for my original building. This is the center line for my new building because it's going to be right next door touching. Now, just like I did with my original building, I took the top and the bottom to the left vanishing point and the top and the bottom to the right vanishing point. Let's look at this. If I take the bottom to the right, it's already done. Yay. I cannot take the bottom to the left, and the reason is because the original building is in the way. I cannot take the top to the left because it would mean drawing through that building. So the only line I can draw right now is from that little point I made, okay, towards the right vanishing point. So for my new building, the only thing I've done so far is I made a dot, and now I can finally draw one of the 4 lines that I needed to check. And I'm drawing right towards the vanishing point as far as I want to go, right? So this is going to be the top edge, the roof line of my building. I need a vertical line to come down to show me where the building edge ends. So with this building, you're only going to be able to see the front of it. Get straight. Okay, the front of the building. This is the center line again. All right. And you can only see the right side of the building because the left side is tucked up against the the first building. First building, you can see the left side and you can see the right side. The second building, because it's pushed up against the first, you can only see the right side. Now, it is lower than the horizon line. So it's lower than your eye level, which means you have an aerial view or a bird's eye view of it, so you will see the top. What you're going to do is take the edge that you have drawn, that's parallel, right, vertical line, take the top of that and line it up with the left vanishing point. Why not the right vanishing point? Well, because it would only extend the front of the building longer. Why not vertical? Because it would make the building taller. You're just trying to top it off. So take the top right-hand side, line it up with the left vanishing point, and draw until you hit something. Once you hit something, which in this case is going to be a building, you stop. So now I have two buildings. What if I wanted another building touching this building, but not the same height? Well, if it's touching, the new center line for my new building is going to share the same edge as my small building right here, the second building that I drew. It's going to share the edge. This time, I'm going to make it a little bit taller. So this is the new center line for my new building. I'm going to take the top of this new center line and the bottom, because this is my new line segment. I'm going to see if I can draw it to the left point at the top, and from the bottom to the left, from the top to the right, the bottom to the right. Now just hold on for a second. I don't want to overwhelm you. Let's look at something. The bottom already goes to the right. The bottom cannot be drawn to the left because, oops, this building's in the way. Okay. But the top is a little bit more open. You actually can take the top to the left and the top to the right. You could take the top to the left, and if you wanted, you could draw it all the way over until you hit a building, or you could stop it short. I'll stop it short just to show you. Uh-oh. Okay. And then if you stop it short, you do need to bring a vertical line down. If you continue till you hit the edge of the building, you don't have to worry about a vertical line coming down. But you will definitely have to do some erasing because there's a horizon line that's going to be trapped inside. So this now becomes, if I erase this, the third shell to my building, my cities. Okay. What if, I know I didn't do a perfect job erasing again. I much prefer pencil, I'll be honest with you. Okay. What if I wanted a building on the left side? I could do the same thing I've done, make a new center line for my new building, sharing the edge. But if I want there to be a space in between buildings, let's say an alleyway, okay, or a driveway, then what I want to do, if I don't want the buildings to touch, I need to jump over a little bit and then draw my new vertical line. If you don't want buildings to touch, then your new vertical line for the center line of your building does not share an edge with another building. So let's jump over just a little bit to the left. And here's the new vertical line, okay? Not shared. The bottom sits on the line that's already traveling to the point, and the top is wherever you make it. And mine is slightly underneath the horizon line, slightly underneath my eye level. Look at the bottom. The bottom already travels to the left vanishing point. Can the bottom go to the right vanishing point? A little bit it can. And if you forget to check this, the whole thing's going to look really weird to you, and you're going to be like, something's wrong. Well, that's what it's going to be. The bottom can travel to the right side vanishing point until it hits something. take the top to the left and take the top to the right. To the left, I'm only going to go as far as I want the building to be. And to the right, I'm actually going to go and hit the building, because if I stopped before I hit the building and brought a vertical line down, I think that would look really weird. I think that building would be too narrow. Usually what I tell people when they're making buildings is to make at least 6 buildings in their town. I would like to go ahead and plug all these buildings in before I start adding doors and windows and whatnot. Coming back here for a second. This new building I'm making, this is the center line. All I need to do is put a vertical line on the left side to suggest the back edge of my building. Okay, and because it is slightly underneath my horizon line, I will see a little bit of the top. So if I take the top of my left line segment and line it up to my vanishing point, that should do the trick. Okay, so I have 4 buildings. I would continue my buildings as far back as I wanted to on both sides. And then what I'd like you to think about, possibly, is a background building. Background buildings are easy, but I would save them until all of your buildings have been designed on the front edge here that you see. A background building, let me show you super quick how to do one. You'd find an existing building, and from the top of that building, you would draw a vertical line that comes out of the top. And you won't be able to see the bottom of what would be the building because it's behind the other buildings you've already created. But you do see the top. And you're going to take the top of that line segment. And this is for background buildings only. Okay? You start with a vertical line that sticks up almost like an antenna out of the top of a building. And you take it to the left and to the right and bring down some verticals. Okay, so, oh wait, I stopped when I hit the horizon line. My bad, that would come all the way down because the horizon line would get erased. So this new building here is in the background. Now I could have just brought it over further, which probably would look a little better. That looks a little bit confusing. So let me just take that off for a second. Do something just a tad different. I think you'll like it better. I'm going to extend that line over just a little bit more. And then bring a vertical line down. Okay, but what I'd like to point out is this is going to look a little bit better if, say, the vertical line I just drew, make sure it doesn't line up perfectly with another edge that already exists, because then it gets confusing. Like where this line on the opposite side here on the right side comes down, it's slightly over from another line that already exists. It needs to be slightly or more over in either direction, but if it lined up perfectly, it would be a little bit confusing to look at. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buildings. I could keep going and fill this up. I suggest that you do that. This is the first step in your cities. So just create what we call the shells of the buildings. Go back as far as you want. Remember, the further away things are, the smaller you would draw them because they're far back. So as you get further back, you want to make sure, now your buildings can be tall, okay? But they don't have to quite be as tall the further back they go. For example, if you look at the first building in the center of town, let's look at the height of that. If I lined up the top coming down towards the left side, any building back here, I mean, if it were as tall as the ruler sits right here, it'd be the same height as the building I have in the center of town. If you want a taller building, that's fine, you can. But just be aware, I wouldn't draw a building like all the way up to the top of the paper, way far back here, close to the horizon line, close to the vanishing point. And I wouldn't draw a building that goes on like for 4 inches or so back here, because the further back we go, the smaller things appear. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So this is step 1. I am stopping there. Do not try to guess what to do next. Wait for the next video and we will build off of this. Hopefully this helps. I'll probably pop in a few more buildings too, but as long as you get the idea of it, then go for it.